We are live. It must be Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. Once again, we are here at the Find Your New Normal conversation on coping with cancer. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming. For those of you that are watching the replay, we honor you. We are very pleased that you're here because every week we talk about some very interesting issues surrounding the journey with cancer. Those of you that are regulars, no, I'm Dave Williams. I look at the world through the eyes of a colon cancer survivor and have recognized that just because you get diagnosed and you go into a treatment program, it doesn't end there, that there are many different issues that come along during the treatment program, the post-treatment program, the recovery into some sense of wellness and vitality. Survivorship goes on for years and years, and there are lots of issues that those of us facing cancer have to face. And this is the place every Wednesday we get together and talk about the issues, bring some interesting guests on, and I'm so grateful you're here with us today. And as always, I have a wonderful co-host beside me, Haley Dubin. I don't know where she is. She could be above, side, somewhere on the screen, and the replay positions her differently. So she's here somewhere. She looks at the world through the eyes of a cancer survivor and a cancer recovery coach. So let me pass the microphone to Haley and let you welcome to say hello to our audience.
Hi, everyone. I am a certified health coach and a 18-year ovarian cancer survivor. And I work with people who have finished treatment for cancer and have fear around recurrence. And I help them gain confidence that they'll remain healthy so they can go back to living their lives with vibrant health and joy. And so it's really the holistic approach. And, we work on nutrition in terms of making your body inhospitable to cancer, as well as nurturing your mind and soul. So it's a real comprehensive approach to well-being.
And you do a good job at it. The feedback is super positive.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, we get the mail. We get hate mail. Some people do not like this show, and others like the show. And those that have followed you, Haley, on your site, which is Revive Wellness, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
ReviveWellness.com. I could put it in.
Sure, that's in the text chat area. Those that have been following Haley know that she knows her stuff. And a number of people who've come on to the show have got some instant advice on different issues. And many people are working with Haley on their recovery. So I'm always grateful to have, that counterpoint to Dave's perspective, because I certainly look at things a little differently than a lot of cancer patients and cancer survivors do, because I'm in some kind of constant treatment program. I continually have issues, and those issues, people have told me I shared too much, and please forgive me. It's not intended to be anything other than helpful, to let you know that you can go through some issues that may be more than you expect, but you can come through it and you can live a very satisfying, joyful life as you try to find your new normal. And one of the people we have today is an extra special friend of mine, Sheila Shuster. I mean, Sheila is a friend of mine for a number of years, and I was lucky enough to meet her when I was working through my early stages of recovery and really at a loss for finding my new identity and finding out how I was going to move forward, because as my physicians had told me, just get on with your life, go back to the way it was. And I said, you can't go back to the way it was. I need a new direction. And I was fortunate enough to find some of the videos that Sheila had available, and it caught my eye, and I was sort of said to myself, man, I'd be so lucky if I could actually meet this lady, because she has such an interesting perspective on how to live your life around this concept of self-care. And I met Sheila, and she was an amazing help to me. And then I hoodwinked her to be my co-host when we started the show, a year and a half ago. So it's funny to come back, and now we've got, a little family here on the screen. So
Great.
welcome, Sheila.
Thank you.
I've really not shared much of your professional qualifications, and that might be a good place to start, is why do I think you're such an amazing woman? And what is it that you've done other than help me get my life together that you've been able to do with other people when you take this approach of the topic of today, slowly, gently, quietly taking a look at your life in order to bring some self-care and successfully find some new joy and vitality. So over to you, Sheila. Share a little bit about your journey, because it's been a very creative and interesting one.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yes.
Maybe I should start off a little bit by telling you my background. I have a degree in biology, and very clearly the first job you get after a degree in biology is with the airlines. I was a flight attendant. So my father was a little confused about that one, but I guess I want to start by saying I've had a lot of different experiences in my life, and I just feel like that was my path. After I left a flight attendant, I became a quality control technician in a cancer diagnostics lab. I actually worked for the company that created the markers, CA-125, CA-19-9, CA-15-3, these markers to help diagnose and monitor people along their cancer course. After that, I got into patient education. I was in genetics for a while. We were helping people in prenatal genetics, people who were at high risk for having a child with a genetic disease, lay out their path. What is it going to look like? Everything from the delivery room all the way through education and medical care into the future. Then I went into high tech, and I worked for a hardware distribution company. And then I was in a startup company, and I worked where we sold a little device that was basically replaced by the smartphone. It was supposed to do everything for you, but guess what? 10 years later, the smartphone came around and took that from us. And finally, I opened a coffee shop. So I had a coffee shop in Arizona for 8 years, and it seems like a strange path. It really does, doesn't it?
There is.
But in every single job that I did, it was always about people and connections and creating community and finding ways to help people. So in 2008, I had a series of losses. In a very short period of time, I lost a 27-year relationship with my husband. My father came out to visit and died while on vacation visiting me. I lost a pet, and I had to sell my business. So it was just like something was telling me to stop and look and evaluate my life and figure out what was going on. And I had all these skills, and I was in executive marketing, and I'd done so many things, and I thought, now, what am I really supposed to be doing? So that was a real turning point for me. 2008 and beginning of 2009, I just did a lot of soul searching. And that really is the basis for my work. It is deeply spiritual. It is very much about trusting that you have inside you what you need at every moment, no matter what. So I ended up getting some certifications. I became a grief counselor for a while, and it was mainly because of my work with the hospice people who helped my dad, which was a fabulous experience. But then I noticed a lot of the hospice volunteers were stressed out. A lot of the healthcare workers in hospice were stressed out, and I seemed to have a knack for calming them down. So I started doing that. They were asking me to come in and do lunch and learns, and I actually had people coming in saying, what are you doing differently with the patients? It's very different when you're here and compared to someone else. So I just started realizing this must be my calling. Everything had to lead up to where I am today. I got a certification in mind-body medicine, so it's very similar to Haley as far as a very comprehensive, integrated approach to self-care. And then I got one in nutrition as well. So we're very similar, Haley. Yeah. There are a lot of things that went into where I am today, and I keep morphing into new versions of me, I guess. But I'm because of all the changes in my life, I suppose I'm really good at change. So that's another area where it's very helpful to a cancer client who is obviously faced with huge changes. And I don't have a cancer experience. All I know is what's happened to me in my life, and I bring that to the table no matter who shows up, whether it's a cancer client or just someone who's really stressed out.
So what do you think about that, Haley? Isn't that an interesting meandering pathway? And you know, it is. She has managed to integrate so much, and the focus is really on this thing called self-care. Yeah. But what the heck is self-care? I mean, you have a different perspective than I think the words normally are interpreted as. And before you begin, hey, we've got some audience members that came in, and Scott and Gavin and Lynn. We've got a number of people that have found their way into this wonky blab environment. So welcome, and we'll open things up to you in just a few minutes. But back to you, Haley, or to you, Sheila. What is self-care?
Well, you know what? It's funny because it's such a broad word, and we hear it every day. It's in the news, and it's on television programs, and it's on talk shows all the time. And I think it's really turned into something that's almost, I don't know, too commercialized, or I don't know exactly how to describe it. So self-care, I've often just thought about changing that from my title, because I thought I don't want to be put in this category. And the reason is this. I think there are a lot of people out there who take very good care of themselves with what they eat, with their physical self, with really trying to do all the right things. They meditate and they do yoga and they really try, but it's sort of a structured, it falls back into sort of education. They're trying to learn how to do something. And my approach is to let people know that they already have everything that they need before they even started learning. Before they started digging into finding out how to take care of themselves, they already know. And the only way to get to that information, the only way to get back to your true self and find and hear those words of wisdom is to spend time alone. It's to be in a quiet space, and it's to slow your life down a little bit. So that's where I came in with this slowly, gently, quietly. It opens the door for so much I can't even tell you. All these other things are fabulous, but not until you have this foundation, this intuition, this gut instinct of what is best for you. And I found that with a lot of cancer patients too. When they are diagnosed with a cancer, they relinquish all of their control. And they say, well, the doctor knows best, tell me what to do. You know what to do, I don't know. And that's a real problem, because you do know. It's just that you haven't had the experience and taken the time or been helped to realize that you know more than you think you do. And this is actually more simple than you could ever imagine. We make it very difficult.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just what you said about, the doctors tell you do X, Y, Z, and you're supposed to be cured or whatever it is. And I do think women especially just have such a hard time taking care of themselves because they're so busy taking care of everyone else. And
yes,
yeah, I think, that they feel guilty almost taking care of themselves.
Right.
But when something like cancer or a big health scare happens, it's almost, you kind of look deep inside and you're forced to figure out, what do I want to do? Just like you said about soul searching, what do I want in my life? And, I'm curious, do your clients have a hard time accepting that? Like, okay, I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I try not to develop a regimen. So what I'm never going to come in and say, okay, every day you're going to have to get up and exercise. Every day you're going to have to get up and watch the food you eat, because people have a real hard time with changing their routines. They don't want to do that. And even cancer patients, and everybody knows if they eat better, they're going to feel better. Everybody knows if they exercise, they're going to feel better. So I make it really simple. I say, you don't have to do that right now, because that will come after you get to this other place inside you. That will naturally come. You will want to take care of yourself, and you'll find a specific thing that makes sense to you. For some people, it's yoga. For some people, it's going for a walk, you know. And so for me to give you a list of ways for you to exercise, for instance, it's great, but nobody sticks to it. Nobody. And so I really think that, and this is over a period of time that I've developed this really simple way of finding time in your life, quiet space, time alone. It's what I first did when all those things came crashing down. I was in Arizona and I went off on a hike, and I hiked for an entire summer. It was by myself. People were worried about me, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was able to realize how much mental chatter I had. I was able to stop pushing it away after I realized it was there. I was able to embrace it and let it be there. Let it be there with me. It's part of me. But not take it so seriously, not listen to everything that my head was telling me about what was going wrong in my life or how I was feeling. And you create this space, this lovely space where you realize there's a big thing going on here in this world. And we get so caught up in our plans for how it should look and what it should be like and the things we have to do. We're missing the big picture. And I feel like it's a slap in the face to what, you know, your higher power wants you to be here to do, what you're meant to be doing. If you just relax into it, it comes because you notice, you see more. So this sounds kind of philosophical and woo-woo, but there are very specific,
right? I mean, that's
there are very specific things that we do, and it's like really simple. And Dave was talking about retreats and things. It doesn't even have to be, you don't have to go to a fancy place. You don't have to pay a lot of money and go and do fancy things, because it is in every room that you are. If you're in the room, then that beauty, that perfect thing is with you. So I don't care if you're sitting at work. I don't care if you're sitting getting chemo. It's there. But if you're letting other things get in the way and distracting you, you're not going to see it, and you're not going to feel that power.
And you have to make the changes that are necessary. As Scott says, often there's information like diet that is not discussed with the patient because the medical system says, well, patients don't listen anyways. And I know when I met you in my recovery process, to me, moving into survivorship was a slice of pizza, 2 chocolate bars, and a can of cola. You know, that was moving to happiness and feeling that I was getting back to some kind of normal. And the changes that I had to make, even though academically I knew were required, didn't start to happen until you started teaching me about taking things slowly, taking things gently, and finding quiet space to let, as you were just saying, spirituality, the universe, whatever you want to call it, talk to me to educate me as to what it is that I need to feel in order that I could start to take the baby steps. It wasn't just do this or else, which was where my lifestyle was. To move forward, there also had to be an acceptance of doing things much more slowly, doing things in a gentle way, and most importantly, finding quiet time to reflect, to meditate, and to let information flow into me. That was a combination that, as you know, took me a long time to figure out. But boy, does that ever make a difference when it becomes part of your new lifestyle.
It's true. And, you know, I've seen it so much. And I think maybe nutrition, and Haley can talk about this too, is a tough one, because you go in and talk to people about what they have to do to change their diet and what is good for you. Well, like I said earlier, everybody knows what's good, but I have found that people are not ready to do that. So when you said, I want to go have pizza, I said, great, go have the pizza. At that moment, that was more important to your whole self, to your healing, to you feeling good, than the cancer, the pizza, which was not so good for Your physical self.
But I put kale on the pizza. It made it all the difference.
No, you didn't. You did not put kale on. I know you better. You did not. But yeah, there's so many aspects to health. It's not just physical health. It's emotional and intellectual and certainly spiritual. But my personal belief is you have to start with getting to know yourself better. And it's hard because we're so used to being out there, like Haley said, out, out, out. And men are doing it for their jobs. Women are doing it for the people in their lives. And their jobs too. But it's just we are so outward focused, and we have no idea what's going on inside here. And that's where you have to start. And it is tough, but that's where the gentle comes in. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to be gentle. You have to go slowly and say, you know what? I'm not doing it today. I can't get it. And that's all right. That's all right. But you just come back to it again and again.
And I feel like people are very hard on themselves. They almost blame themselves for getting cancer. Why did my body fail me? You know, what's wrong with me? And I used to be able to run 10 miles and now I can't do anything. I could barely walk. And, so people are extremely hard on themselves. Not always, but can be. How do you address that with them? I mean, do you have certain, exercises you do with them, journaling? I'm just not sure what
yeah. Well, and with our mind body medicine, and I should start by saying, when I got trained in mind body medicine, there is a structure, right? So there are didactics that you learn, and experiential things that you do with people. So you learn this process. And the first couple times I did it, I was so right by the book, right? Because you're just trying to do it exactly right. But then I realized, if I'm doing this work, this has to be about Sheila, what I have to give you, not what I've learned has to give a client. So I honestly, I have all the information. It's in my head. I can go back to it. And it does include things like journaling and movement and many, many different modalities. But really what it comes down to is being super present with that person right there and really listening to what's going on, and throw that other stuff out the window. Because you don't want to be the coach that's trying to come up with the right solution. Always, well, I have this is a fix, and that's a fix, and I have the thing for you. Because I did that. I really did. When in the very beginning, it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel true. It didn't feel like I was really doing the best for that person. And the reason is, there are thousands of other people out there trained in the same program that I was. So we're all doing the same thing. So this is like magic, some magic program. I don't think that's true. I think I learned from that. I took what I could from it, and then I apply my life and my experiences in my past to that, and that's what I bring to the situation. So when someone says they can't move forward or they don't know how to start, I have a conversation with them. Well, tell me what your day is like. Tell me the kinds of things that work for you and what doesn't work for you, and why do you think that is? So all the time, I'm just trying to get them back to a place where they start trusting that there's something that they know that they're not going to get from me. Because I don't know the answer. I don't know. They have to find it. All I'm going to do is show them. I'm going to point, and then they tell me what they see. And it's always right. Whatever they see is right for them. So that's a long way of answering that question.
No, it's great. And I bet there's some people in our audience who want to respond, because I've just opened up the seat so that any of you who's been listening to the conversation want to make a comment and talk to Sheila and Haley. This is your opportunity to come on and say hello and get your questions asked. Because it is something that is complicated, right, Haley? This is not an easy move forward kind of process.
Absolutely. I think everyone is so different. I know with me, right away when I left the hospital, I wanted to know, okay, how am I going to avoid recurrence? How am I going to take control of my health? So I was asking, just like Dave mentioned, my oncologist all these questions, what can I do to avoid a recurrence? And is there a certain diet I should eat? And he had no answers for me and basically said, go back to live your normal life. You're going to be fine. And that just didn't sit well at all. So I found that sense of control in researching anti-cancer diets, finding out how I can get my energy back to take care of my 2-year-old son at the time. So for me, that was the first step, the diet, but not for everybody. I mean, for some people, it's looking at what the relationships are like. Are they in a stressful relationship? Or do they hate their career? So there's so many facets to look at. You're absolutely correct.
And it's not something that is a process that only works during treatment or post-treatment. I was at the Share Care Council meeting on the weekend, and we were talking about death and dying. In fact, really hospice care, palliative care, end-of-life 30 days care, and this concept of slow, gentle, quiet is an important part of even facing the passing, the death component. And, I was bringing up the fact that particularly cancer patients, when you suddenly get told you've got cancer, the first question that comes is, am I going to die? And then through the treatment program, am I going to die? And will I survive the operation? And will I survive chemo and radiation? And will I survive? And then you finally get into post-treatment, and now you're back into constant scanning, and you're constantly upgrading, and complications and second-level cancer. You're living with a lifestyle change that if you had learned, as I'm so grateful to Sheila for teaching me, how to look at this life that you've got in a different way, then you can apply this concept that Sheila is sharing with us to every moment of your life, right into that moment when you're sitting there saying, but I think I'm going to die shortly. And as you know, we talked a few weeks back, in March, I was pretty well had my mindset that I was unlikely to live until this Christmas. And I was in that mental state, and I couldn't get out of it until I started to get back into slowly, gently, quietly looking at where I was so that I could reframe and move forward. This is not just a trite concept. Self-care process with this methodology is an amazing way of looking at life and your treatment and your survival right up to death.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was saying it sounds like it's all about being in the present moment. I mean, is that what you would think?
It's an awful lot about being in the present moment. It's about, in fact, one of the videos that I've done is Slow Down and Stay Here. And it's really, everything that's happening right now is fine. Well, all those things that you're worried about, am I going to die? That's not right now. That's not right now. So everything is about staying here. And when you're able to do that and you start living right here, you just see so much more. You see so much more in your life. And I'm telling you, you'll see things in your house that you've never seen. You'll hear things that you've never heard before. And you pick up on those little tiny, I want to say hints. And I really feel like they're guides. There's these whispers that happen that are telling you a direction to go. And when you're allowing your mind chatter to, scream and these voices at you, and you listen to them, you're not being on the path where you're supposed to be. And it's okay, because the path is never going anywhere. You'll get back on it, but you'll probably jump off a few times, and that's all right. It's just that this is a faster way to get there, and you can have peace today. You can have joy and gratitude no matter what is going on around you, if you can really hone in on the skill of staying present, slowing down, being gentle with yourself, and moving in a way that is just, you just walk around and you see life in a different way. I have no other way to describe that.
Hey, Scott, good to see you join in. How do you feel about today's conversation?
Oh, this is one of the best.
You say that every time.
Does he say that every time?
This one's a good one. You know, I don't jump into these every day, or every week.
No.
But when I'm in front of my computer and I see the little pop-up come up and you're on, I like to take a chance because the conversations are so good. And by the way, Haley, how are you? And
I'm
Sheila,
good.
I've never met you. I love what you're saying. I mean, the whole thing about quiet space, God almighty, that's powerful stuff. I mean, I turn my phone off. I turn the ringer off. And that creates a semi-private space. And it's so relaxing not to know that phone is working in the background. Oh my God. And so, yeah, you're right. The quiet.
Yeah. It's the first step. It really is. And it's very difficult in this society to do it. And people have a hard time doing it. When I bring them into a day retreat or a week-long retreat, sometimes it takes them 3 or 4 days to get to the point where they can turn their phone off.
But I'll tell you, those little voices that pop off, they don't go away.
Yeah, and you don't have to, you know what? There's a misconception about meditation, I think. You know, well, first of all, people think meditation is one thing, sitting there and chanting and being quiet. And there's a lot of different kinds of meditation, including movement and awareness meditation and walking and cooking and all kinds of things. But the other thing that's a real misconception about meditation, I believe, is that people think you have to try to shut those voices off. And you don't. You don't have to push them away. You don't have to turn them off. Let them be there with you. That's the key. You try to stop them from being there, they're going to keep bouncing back in, right?
But you know, I have this one voice that tells me it's okay to cheat a little bit.
Cheat on what? On your health care?
Well,
on taking care of yourself?
I don't know. You know, I about a couple weeks ago, Haley, you didn't hear this. You're not hearing this.
Oh, okay.
A couple weeks ago, I had this craving for a fish. So look, I'm a professed vegan. Okay, so my ultimate place is being a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm better at it. I do follow it. There are days and I'm probably pretty 100%. But the other day, I had a craving for a fish sandwich at McDonald's. I don't even think it's fish. It probably is a direct cause of a lot of cancer, is right there in that little sandwich.
Uh-huh.
So, but I went in and had the special, all right? The fries.
Yeah.
That's vegan.
That's vegan. Yes. That's true.
That's vegan. The fish sandwich and a Coke. Uh-huh. What got me there was I read an article. Why does McDonald's Coke taste better than any other Coke? I think they put more sugar in it.
Different.
Probably.
Oh,
that's my guess. Is it
and
true?
You know, for someone who's trying to lose weight, you don't want to drink Coke, you know. And I cheated on it, and the little voice says, "A little bit's not going to hurt. A little bit isn't going to hurt." And that's what gets me, you know. That's the, if I could shoot that little guy.
No, I don't think you should shoot him. I think you should pull him in and hug him. I do. I think you should pull him in and say thank you for being here for me, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about why you feel like I need this. Does it make me feel good? What, you know, honest to God, this is what I'd like you to do, because this is important. If you keep pushing him away, you're never going to get the answer. He's going to pop in.
I have been able to deal with him on my exercise routine when he props up every morning when the alarm goes off.
Yeah.
don't sleep in, forget the gym today, you don't need it, you go tomorrow, whatever. The weather's shitty, stay in, whatever. I say to him, I don't care what you say. I'm going to the gym.
Well,
and I get to the gym, and I'm there at the gym with him chattering like this, really pissed off. I'm not listening to him,
Right.
And then, a lot of people, when I have this conversation with people that don't know me well, they always, well, what little guy is he talking about?
I know which guy.
And I always like to say, it's the little guy that's telling you, asking you, what am I talking about?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just thinking that, we have a body and a soul, and our body wants to stay comfortable and, not go out of our comfort zone, and our soul wants the best for us. So I think we're constantly fighting between those two things, But I guess to me, it's just about asking yourself, how do you feel after you eat that?
Right.
Fully of fish and Coke and
fries.
just ask yourself to beat yourself up, but to really be curious with yourself about how you feel after you eat something like that. And
when the Coke hits you and you get the sugar rush after the grease and
yeah, I love it.
Dave, so you're right there with me. You know exactly.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm going to add one more thing to that, and it's in line with what Haley was saying. We do an awful lot of mindful eating exercises. And what I tell people when they have a craving like that, I say, go ahead, go to McDonald's, but I want you to eat that food really slowly. I want you to look at it. I want you to think about where it came from, what humans work went into growing that food or raising that food. How was it prepared? Really take your time. Take a bite, chew it slowly, enjoy it, taste it. And as you're doing that, you're going to start paying more attention to how it's making you feel. What normally happens is we gobble our food. We're eating it so fast and so mindlessly that we don't realize how much we've eaten. It takes a while for our stomach to tell our brains that it's full. So, but by that time it's too full. And go ahead, those French fries are great. McDonald's French fries are great. Take one at a time. Don't stuff 10 in your mouth because you're not tasting it, right? So if you're going to enjoy it, enjoy it. Chew it slowly, swallow it. Don't gulp the soda down if you like it that much. Go for it. But what Haley was saying is think about how you're feeling when you're eating it. And I don't mean guilt. That's not what I mean. I mean, how does it feel? How does it feel to your body? Is it nourishing you or is it diminishing you?
Well,
certainly the next day I see the reaction.
I bet you do, Dave.
Not a good thing to do, but I do get at least an hour of pleasure and then 2 days of recovery. So
yeah, no, now you know why they make a nice living selling Tums.
Is right.
Right.
Well, I got a hunger for McDonald's now because up here they've just announced that McDonald's will serve the French fries in little wire baskets like they do at A&W. So I've got to have a new food experience. I've just got to go to McDonald's and see if fries taste different if they're in a wire basket.
Yeah, and these big chain places, they really have a lot of power. You wonder why a place like McDonald's, and this, I don't want to bash McDonald's, but why don't they come out with some healthy food?
I think they've tried, and it's once again, my belief is that people don't want it.
Don't go to McDonald's.
They don't want that. Remember that they had that McLean burger?
Yeah, that didn't work.
Nothing works. And they had their salads and they don't sell. But once again, I think it's because people really touch with what is best for them. And by the way, we're also genetically wired to eat fatty foods that satisfy us. That's what, when we were way back in time, we had to get as much food in us as possible so we could survive. And so we have this genetic component that says, I need to feel full. And so it's not an excuse, but it's true. And unfortunately, the food industry has really taken advantage and, like you said, added more sugar, added all kinds of other things to our foods. And so I've been down the vegan thing too, by the way, Scott. I was a vegan for a very long time until I went to Turkey on a vacation and a spiritual retreat. And I learned an awful lot from the Turkish people about food, which was I didn't expect. But
what's their bottom line?
Real food. I mean, and that's I've always been is real food. I eat very, very little meat, and I don't do dairy, so I still am on the fringe of vegan. But what I guess I consider myself to flavor my food with meat products. So like people put
spices.
Yes, when people put parsley on their food, that's how much meat I would eat. Like that. That's how much I would do, and it's different for everybody, but that's what feels right for me. And what I got from them is how much gratitude they have for their food. So it is very, it's enjoyed slowly. It is, I was there during a time when they were at a ceremony where they were slaughtering sheep and goats for a religious ceremony, and they slaughter the animal and then they thank it for giving its life. I mean, they say a prayer over it. It's so different than the way that we process meat in this country. So, so it was very different. It was, I don't know, it just changed my way of thinking. And I understand all of the health components of eating well, and certainly mostly fruits and vegetables and as little meat as you could possibly get, and is what I've learned is best for cancer. But I say the most important thing is that if you are going to have a craving like that and cheat, first of all, have that conversation with that voice, and secondly, enjoy every single bite. Take it slow.
You're going to cheat good.
Yeah, enjoy every bite.
To stop the conversation, but I know Haley's got to break out. So Haley, do you want to say anything before you have to break out?
Well, thank you for reminding me I had to leave because it's such an interesting conversation.
It's a great conversation.
Yes. But, I love this idea of being mindful when it comes to everything. I mean, food, just like what you're saying, Scott, when you have this craving for something, it's hard to not give in to that voice that's saying, just take it, it tastes good. But, like Sheila said, I think it's all about asking yourself those questions. And I think food's information, you have a craving for a reason. Maybe you're missing certain minerals. Maybe you want something salty, which kind of could mean that you're missing minerals. So it's just all about not being hard on yourself, asking the right questions, and being present, which I love that, Sheila. And I'm going to go to my son's baseball game, his playoff game, try not to be too nervous when he goes up to bat, and just say, you know what? I am going to be present.
Be right there with them. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much. It was so great to meet you, and I hope we stay in touch. I would absolutely love to stay in touch.
That sounds wonderful.
So thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Play ball.
We'll see you again. Have a great ball game.
Oh, thank you so much. What'd you say, Scott?
Play ball.
Play ball.
Play ball. Hope for a winner. Okay,
enjoy.
Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.
So
I think Haley is bringing up an interesting point about what you feel after you've learned to be mindful, because this idea of craving has really been interesting to me, because I've discovered that various things, whether it's recreational, whether it's business, or whether it's food like we're talking about, there seems to be a certain amount of patterns that if I go into that quiet state, I get some magical information about what I should be doing. And just to stay on top of this idea of cravings, in the last few days, I've had to eat more salt. And my nurse today said, yeah, I'm glad you are, because it looks like salt retention is important for you. And then suddenly I've got this craving for sugar, and I haven't had any chocolate or Easter candy since Easter. And yet, I was saying, so what is it? Am I in some diabetic kind of thing now, that my low blood sugar, I'm craving some fructose and sucrose and so on? If you are in the moment, if you learn to live for today, forget about all the things that happened in the past and stop worrying about everything that's going to be happening in the future, just be in the moment, then I get information about how I should live today. I think that's just a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, how do you reconcile plans in your
present moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can plan. You're just planning in the present moment. So you're not letting your mind take you into tomorrow's plan. You're saying, tomorrow I'm going to do this and this and this. And typically what we'll do is we'll let our minds go, oh, but what happens if this? And then, oh my gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. And when I walk in, they're going to say that. That's what we tend to do. So planning is great, but you plan right here, and you know that you can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. You put a plan together, and then tomorrow you get up and you execute the plan. You can't manage something that's not here yet.
Yeah,
Isn't that a dilemma? You actually convince yourself you're in control. I know you and I've had this conversation. That was my big issue. I thought I could make things happen, that I was in charge of my plans and what were going to happen tomorrow. Cancer just told me I don't have any control, and now I'm finding that all the things that I want to work on, it seems like I don't have control.
But on the other hand, my take on that is, when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer over a year ago, I took responsibility for it. I mean, I said that I created this son of a bitch. You know what I mean? I sometimes think I have less power than what I do. So here I got off track and I got myself a case of prostate cancer. But then again, I got to take it out. They go in, they cut the prostate out. And my buddy, who's a urologist, tells me, once you have prostate cancer, you always have prostate cancer. I said, well, I thought they cut it out. He said, nah. He said, I see patients that come in here 20, 30 years after the fact, and they get recurrence of it. I said, oh.
Right. So once again, you can't live today thinking about what might show up tomorrow, or what's going to happen next week with your next treatment or whatever, because
right.
This is just another voice. It's a doctor's voice. It's a friend's voice, but and you could take it and you can set it aside, and you say, well, what's happening to me right now? What's going on in my life right now? I can't worry. I cannot put any effort into tomorrow's problem because I don't have enough information because it's not here yet.
The thing is, I think I'm in total control. I'm sort of like Dave. I think I'm in total control of what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And damn it,
Most people do.
If I can do something to change it, I'm going to change the outcome.
Well, there are certainly things that, taking care of yourself, if you're a smoker and you have a lousy diet and you don't exercise, your chances of having any kind of disease, all kinds of diseases, the chances go up. So you can take care of yourself. It's just that most people that I've met have this plan in mind, and they're shattered when the plan that they've worked so hard to create falls apart. Because they're missing this link. They're missing this piece, that there's this much bigger thing out here that's trying to tell you the direction to go. And it's fun and it's easy and it's much more effortless than what your plan is. But it's the right plan for you. And it's always going to take you back there. And you're going to be like, well, what's going on now? Well, that's a part of this big plan. And you hear it when you're quiet. You hear it.
That was like me. Not scheduling anything between the time I was diagnosed and with the surgery, by the time in that month and a half or so. So I didn't want to schedule anything. How do I know that I'm going to make the surgery? Why schedule anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was a goner, you know, and
Sure.
where I had the big breakthrough that I did go out 3 months after the surgery and scheduled something. That was a major breakthrough.
Good
So,
for you. That's awesome.
so are you Dave's cancer coach, or are you his?
Well, I don't know. I haven't had any payments.
That's right. Yeah.
We do reciprocal work.
Are
Let's
you
put it
from?
that way.
Are you in Canada?
No, I'm in the States.
Where are
I'm
you?
in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Where in Pennsylvania?
Northeastern.
And where is that, up by Stroudsburg or?
Up by Scranton. Well, I'm in the farthest county, in the farthest northeast county of Pennsylvania. I'm in Wayne County.
Is that near It's right in the Poconos.
Yeah,
Right?
in the Poconos. Yep.
Yeah, I'm down in Harrisburg.
Oh, great. Well, one of the things that I was talking to Dave about is I've just moved to this area. It's a long story, but I'm up in the woods here, and it's bringing me back to my childhood, and it's making me remember I've come full circle. And when I get out in nature and in the woods and with wild animals, that is such a huge reminder for me that there's this bigger thing going on, because the trees and the ducks aren't worried about anything. They're just doing their tree and duck things. And it really nourishes me to get out and see that, because it's a reminder. I hate to let people think that I'm just this blissful, joyful person every day who's really calm all the time, because the only thing that I have going for me is I can slide into joy and peace very quickly. So I still go out, but I come back real fast.
That's great. That's great.
It looks like we're past the hour, so let's end the formal on the air session. We'll stay on camera to keep the discussion going, because this is a great discussion. But let's close out formally the main body for the replay. So over to you, Sheila. If you could just make some final comments, if you could tell people where to find you. Make sure that we get your website, SheilaShuster.com, in the email, in the text chat area. But if you could, make your final comments to today's message, and then we'll get off camera and keep the discussion going.
Okay. Well, I've come a long way from when I started doing this work, and I've evolved from lots of different names and titles. And really what I'm doing now is working with groups, either in retreat settings, just daytime little webinar seminars. I do some webinars. And I'm just helping small groups of people to learn this process of slowing down, being more gentle with yourself, and learning how to find that quiet space, so that everything that's meant for you will come, and you'll start noticing it, and you'll see it. And it goes far beyond cancer. So my website is SheilaShuster.com. And I'm on Facebook, and it's actually where I do an awful lot of socializing for work. So Facebook is turning into an interesting place for me. I've taught some classes on there as well. So we'll see where that takes us. And in the meantime, I'm doing local retreats, local day workshops up here in the Northeast. And I'm working on a video, which will be out on YouTube. It'll be kind of interesting. It's a story that I wrote a few years ago about the meaning of life. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it was really great to have you here. I mean, it's just really super for you to give some time to our audience. And as always, I thank you out there for coming in every week. We're going through some problems with Blab, as some of you know, and Blab announced earlier this week that they are pivoting to a new direction and phasing out broadcasts and hosts. So we're in the shopping right now for other platforms to get on. So stay in touch with us, and I'll stay in touch with you, Dave at findyournewnormal.com. those of you watching the replay. We will find another way of being here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern to have a conversation with cancer. But as always, thank you for your interest and support. And without you, we just wouldn't be here. Very grateful for all that you do to keep us here on air. So thanks very much. And hopefully we'll have a home next Wednesday. So let's go off air and we'll carry on the conversation. Thanks very much for coming. Bye for now.